Level 1, Novice. You are 8 years old, and you've fallen asleep among rotting wooden crates in the port of Acre. No mother, no father. Not even a name anymore. Whatever they call you on the street, that's who you are. Filth, vermin, carrion crow. Before the smell of the salty sea burns your nose in the early morning, your hands feel it first. A rough, leather-gloved fist, grabbing your collar, dragging you across the stones. When you open your eyes, a man is standing before you. White cloak, a red cross on his chest. His eyes are almost non-existent, or maybe too large, you can't tell. He says something to you in Latin. You don't understand, but his voice is calm, and from that voice, you hear something you've never heard before. Not hope, but inevitability. He will take you somewhere. Where? It doesn't matter where. This is the port of Acre. This is no different from death. And that man is offering you something far better than death, a purpose. You stand up, you take your first step, but you don't know yet. This step will harvest the rest of your life. This step is your last real decision. Every step you take from this point on will be the organization's decision. They take you to a stable first. It isn't exactly dark inside, but you can't call it lit either. A yellowish, flickering flame. The smell. Straw, horse urine, incense, and something else. Iron. The glint of a sword shining in the light. 4 men stand before you. One is old, white beard, large hands, not the hands of a farmer. These are hands that have broken things all their life. He asks you in Arabic, "What is your name?" You answer. He nods, then mutters something in Latin. The man beside him pulls out a leather strap, and he tattoos your name onto your arm. Not a new name, your old name. Because the easiest way to brand an old name is to bury it under the skin and forget it. Now that name is nothing but a wound. You will not cry. If you cry, they won't take you. You clench your teeth. The old man smiles. This smile unsettles you even more. Good, he says in Arabic. Children who don't cry become knights. Knight. That word stirs something in you stronger than 2 days of empty stomach. But tonight, the place you'll sleep is still a stable. And in the morning, training begins. The first week, you learn this. You own nothing. Not your clothes. Not your bed. Not your food. Not your name. Every morning you wake up. The trainer takes something of yours. Today, a sandal. Tomorrow, a spoon. The day after, a wool blanket. When he takes it, what do you feel? Anger, fear. If you complain or say a word, no food. If you stay silent, it comes back the next morning. This is not a game. This is teaching you the organization's most fundamental truth. You are a tool. Tools have no owner. Tools are used, and you come to see this not as weakness, but over time as freedom. Because when you have nothing to lose, you have nothing to fear. By age 12, you can ride a horse. At 14, do you learn to wield a sword? No, you learn to carry it. Its weight, its balance, the geometry of bringing a man to the ground. At 16, you see real blood for the first time. In a training fight, you break the nose of a Provençal boy across from you. You wait, expecting the trainer to stop you. He doesn't. Continue, he says, and you continue. Level 2, Miles. You are 18 years old, and once again, you are in a dark room, but not a stable this time. This room is called the chapel, and in the flickering light of candles inside, you are among 30 men on their knees. Stumbling is forbidden. The preceptor walking beside you, the man 1 rank below the commander, whispers in your ear, "Don't close your eyes." You close them. First come sounds, a Latin hymn, then the sound of a sword leaving its sheath, then cold metal right at the back of your neck. Don't stumble. You don't stumble. The sword rises, the hunched old man, the representative of the Grand Master, the commander of this town, touches the sword to your shoulder. He says only one word, and in that moment, 8 years of training come to an end. You are now a Miles, a soldier, a knight. You are not given a new name, because they haven't called you by the name you were born with for 10 years now. But you have a title, and a title is more real than a name. When they drape the white cloak over your back, you feel its warmth, but also its weight. Your first assignment is simple. You will escort a trade caravan, the road to Jerusalem, Christian pilgrims, 12 camels, 4 knights, 10-foot soldiers. Simple. You set out. On the 3rd day of the mission, something happens in the narrow part of a valley. The kind of thing that is never told in textbooks. A stone rolls from the right side of the road, then an arrow, then screams, and in that moment, for the first time, you swing a sword at someone, a real person. Does your hand tremble? It doesn't. You'll be surprised by this later. But in that moment, your body has become a machine. 10 years of training in muscle memory. You don't think, you do, and someone falls. You've cut a blood vessel at the neck. The blood is warm. You knew that, but you didn't know it would be this warm and this fast. The caravan is saved. When you sit by the fire that night, the oldest knight comes to your side. He looks at you. First time, he asks. Yes. You won't sleep tonight. No. Second time is the same. Third, a little easier. He pauses. After that, you lose count anyway, and he leaves. You don't sleep that night. But the next night, a little easier. The years you spend as a Miles teach you 3 things. First, the organization has money, a great deal of money, properties across Europe, trade routes in the Middle East, the first banking system of the Christian world. A pilgrim deposits money in France, withdraws it with a document in Jerusalem. This is magic, and this magic is in the hands of the Knights Templar. Second, the organization has secrets that grow larger the deeper you go. You feel that what you know now, the white cloak, holy protection, soldiers of God, is only a surface. Something else is swimming in the deep waters. Third, loyalty is the only currency. The organization feeds you, clothes you, arms you. In return, it asks for only one thing, everything. And you say yes. Because what else can you say? They found you in a stable at age 8. Level 3, Sergeant. You are 23 years old, and you are aware of something now. The white cloak is not for everyone. Sergeants wear black or dark brown. They fight, they carry, they die, but they are never counted as knights. They are not noble, but you are special. The commander pulled you toward the upper ranks. Why? Because you have a particular quality. You don't ask, you only obey. Others ask, why will I kill this man? You don't ask, you do, and this makes you very valuable. Your first secret mission arrives, but this is not a battle, it's a message. There is a merchant in Damascus, Muslim, but he has connections to the organization. Had connections is more accurate. Now he is selling those connections elsewhere to Venetian traders, and this is damaging the organization's information monopoly. The commander summons you. A small room, 2 candles, 2 men at the door. This man's business must end, he says. How? However you wish? And you go. You observe the Damascus bazaar for 3 days, the man's routine, which coffee house he goes to in the mornings, which inn he uses in the afternoon, where he sleeps at night. On the 4th night you go. A dark, narrow street. The man is alone. Your footsteps are quiet. You learned this. Not even a dagger is drawn. Just a cord. It passes around the back of the neck. And silence. No cry at all. You look at the man's face in his final moment. His eyes are open. Surprised. But only for seconds. Then the eyes go empty. And there, crouching on the cold stone floor, you search for what you expected to find inside yourself. Remorse. A shudder. The voice of conscience. Nothing. And this void, the absence of that voice, frightens you more than anything else. You return. The commander only looks at you, then nods. Did you sleep last night? Yes. Good. And the mission is over. No more questions. No more explanation. Was it fair? Was it right? These questions are not asked. And when they are not asked, their answers disappear too. In this period, you learn something else. The organization's real power is not in the sword. The sword is a tool. Real power is information. The Knights Templar had built Europe's most advanced intelligence network. Pilgrims carried information. Merchants carried information. A preceptory in every port, an agent in every preceptory. And this network stretched from pope to king, from Muslim emir to Jewish banker. You are now a node in this network, a small node, but you know your place in the web. And this knowledge, understanding that the organization is not merely an army, but a system, carries you to the next level. Level 4, Preceptor. You are 28 years old. You are now the commander of a preceptory, a small fortified village in Cyprus. 12 knights, 30 sergeants, over 100 villagers, farmland, a port, a warehouse, all yours. Every morning you wake up and look out over this land, and you think, this is a life that the 8-year-old child could never have imagined. Then in the afternoon, a sound comes from inside, the interrogation room. Your men have brought in 2 people. A Genoese merchant. He transported illegal goods without the organization's approval. This is something like tax evasion. Except the one collecting the tax isn't a state, it's the Knights Templar. The man is bound, crying. What you must do. Either transform him into a larger source of information for the organization or finish the job. You have 5 minutes to decide, and you make this decision as routinely as eating a meal. The man talks. He converts. He becomes a new agent. You go down to dinner? The most dangerous thing about this period is this. You no longer even question your own behavior. Did the interrogation slide into torture? It was necessary. Did a villager rebel? Was it harshly suppressed? Order is required. Did a rival organization's representative disappear? The timing was right. This is the most insidious form of moral collapse. The voice of conscience doesn't vanish. Something far worse happens. It finds justification for everything. And you, a member of an ancient order, protector of the roads to Jerusalem, shield of Christian civilization, see every dark action in a light of righteousness. This belief keeps lulling you to sleep, for now. Level 5. Commander. You are 35 years old, and you are now aware of something. The organization has 2 layers. The outer layer, warriors protecting the Holy Land, knights of the Christian pilgrims. The Pope's army. The inner layer, something else. You understand this for the first time one night. At a commander's meeting, there are 5 of you, candlelight, and the topic being discussed is not the Holy Land, the debt situation of the Kingdom of France. The organization has extended large amounts of credit to King Philip IV of France, and the king cannot pay, but the consequences of non-payment are being discussed, not just economic, but political consequences. If payment doesn't come, someone asks, The old man smiles. It won't come. Then the king will have no choice but to be far more cooperative with us. And the 5 men around the table, you among them, discuss the fate of a kingdom as casually as they might discuss the weather. You can't sleep that night. But this time it isn't from conscience, it's from excitement. You manage your first major operation as commander. There is a secret information leak at the palace of a Crusader prince. This prince is planning to forward some of the organization's financial records. Whether forged or genuine is unclear, to the Vatican. This is a crisis that reaches all the way to the Grand Master. An order comes to you. Get the information, seal the leak, and in addition, stay silent. You know what stay silent means. To carry out the mission, you select 6 men. These are chosen men, not only for their physical capacity, but for their capacity not to ask questions. They enter the prince's palace. Documents are retrieved. The information source, a scribe at the palace, disappears. A week later, the prince tells the Vatican a different story, and the crisis closes. You never step into the field yourself. That's where the real power lies. Your hands stay clean. Level 6, Marshal. You are 42 years old, and you now command an army. Today you stand before the walls of Acre, hundreds of white cloaks billowing at your back. Before you, Saladin's army in retreat. Yes, a retreat. A small victory, strategically critical. A messenger arrives from Jerusalem, bearing the Grand Master's seal. The message is brief. This victory will not be recorded. You stop. You look at the message. You read it again. Yes, you understand correctly. The victory you won today will not enter the organization's external archives. No case records will be kept. No historian will write of it. Your name, the names of the men you sent into the field today, will cease to exist. Why? The message contains no explanation. But you surmise. This victory could jeopardize a treaty the organization is currently negotiating with the Muslim side. Yes, you understand. The Knights Templar are simultaneously negotiating with both Christian and Muslim leaders, and for these tables not to damage each other, certain truths must remain invisible. Your name is being erased from history. But you continue. Damnatio memoriae, a Roman invention, the erasure of a person from memory, the chiseling away of their name, the destruction of statues, the rewriting of history. The Knights Templar perfected this. As Marshal, you learn that certain victories, certain negotiations, certain alliances never existed. Documents that passed through your hands are destroyed, along with the names of the hands that signed them, and you are both the object and the subject of this erasure. You erase the names of others. Your own name is being erased, sitting in your tent at night. You try to write on a piece of parchment, "Today You stop. Who are you writing this for? Who will read it? And even if they do, does it matter? You burn the parchment. And this gesture, without you realizing, completes the lesson the organization has been teaching you for 10 years. The individual name is nothing before the organizational purpose. You have now become fully institutionalized. Level 7, Draper. You are 48 years old, and you no longer fight. You observe those who fight. The Draper, the Grand Clothier, appears to be a logistical position, responsible for the organization's clothing stock, material distribution. But in reality, this position controls something else as well, loyalty oversight. You are the person heading the system that watches every member of the organization at every rank. Who is taking bribes? You know. Who is sending secret letters? You know. Who has Venetian or Genoese connections? You know. And this knowledge elevates you, but it also makes you dangerous. One night, word comes about a man you trusted, a commander who has served the organization for half a century, 10 years older than you. Someone who has known you since your training days, someone who stood by your side in your first battle. And this man is copying some of the organization's financial documents. Why? Perhaps for security, perhaps for letters of indulgence, perhaps mere curiosity, perhaps he's working with someone from outside, you don't know. And your not knowing doesn't matter, because the rules are clear. An uncontrolled copy of information means betrayal. You summon the man, you close the door, and instead of talking, instead of asking, instead of understanding, you apply the same silence you learned. The man looks into your eyes. "You?" he asks. "Me," you say. And this single exchange erases half a century of friendship, a history, a memory. You cannot sleep that night. But the reason is no longer the bullet from the barrel. You don't even know why. You only feel that the ceiling, in the darkness, has nothing to say to you. Level 8, Seneschal. You are 55 years old. And kings don't know who you are. But you know them very well. Seneschal, the Grand Master's first deputy, the second man of the organization. Owner of every decision, signatory of none, this position doesn't appear in history books. But history books are written because of this position. You are in France now, near Paris, and the man across from you, not on a throne, but speaking as if he were Philip the Fourth, Philip the Fair. The king is in debt. He cannot repay what he owes the organization, and he has personally proposed a solution, restricting the organization's operations in France. In other words, instead of buying you off, crushing you, you sit at the table. The king speaks through his interpreter. You understand Latin? The king doesn't know this? And this small piece of knowledge, this single small advantage, gives you the trajectory of today's negotiation. You bargain, you smile. And as you part, the king feels as though he has agreed to a deal. But in reality, you have set the trap for his next 3 moves. When you step outside, the winter cold of Paris strikes your face. And for the first time, you think this. All this power, all this strategy, all this scheming. Why am I doing all of it? No answer comes. Because you already know there is no answer. The machine runs, and you are part of the machine. The largest part, perhaps, but a part. Real power is not being feared. Real power is not even being suspected of existing. Popes change thrones. You don't change. Crusades begin, end, you continue. Jerusalem falls, Acre falls. The organization retreats to Cyprus. But money flows, information flows, and you are at the helm of this current. But one morning, looking in the mirror, you notice a furrowed brow. Hands, they don't grip as tightly as before. And the eyes. Something is missing from the eyes. The thing that was in your eyes at age 8, sleeping in a stable. That light, that hunger, not from compassion. You lost that long ago. But that vitality, that pure human curiosity is gone, and you feel its absence for the first time. Level 9, the Grandmaster's Shadow. You are 60 years old, and there is a man who tastes every meal before you. You don't know this man's name. You don't want to know it. Because if he is ever poisoned, knowing his name makes him more real. It makes him a human being. And after a human being's death, you want to sleep at night. This thought makes you laugh. Not out loud, of course. You only watch from the corner. You no longer make decisions. You have them carried out. Every morning, 3 folders arrive on your desk. From different cities, different subjects, financial, military, political. You read them. You set them aside. They await an answer by evening. And you give answers. Yes, no, wait, finish. Each of these affects a life, a city, sometimes a kingdom. But the words are monosyllabic, because you no longer explain yourself. Explaining is weakness. But nighttime is different. Your room is large, the walls are cold, the fireplace burns, but somehow you can never get warm enough. There are 2 guards outside the door. Can they be trusted? You've trusted them for a year. But a year ago, you trusted someone else for 2 years. And that man, no, don't let that thought in. You pick up a book, Augustine, Confessions. You open it at random. Our heart is restless until it rests in thee. You close the book. Peace. When did you last feel that? Were you 8 years old at the port of Acre? Straw and salt air. Nights you slept with no responsibility for anything. Now you have a room, you have wealth, hundreds of men under your command, and you have hands trembling from restlessness. The threat begins. King Philip IV no longer wants merely to defer the debt. He wants to completely dissolve the organization. You receive word from someone inside. Who is this insider? You don't know, but the mere fact that they know. Is it one of the 3 men you trusted? You can't sleep. In the morning, you sit at the dining table. You can't taste anything. Everything is like ash. You feel the drag of eating. The servant brings your coffee. You stare at the steam rising from the cup. That color, that smell. Does poison look like this? That man is there again, the taster. He takes the first sip. You watch the man. The man smiles at you. A servant smile. And you no longer know what you are looking for behind that smile. You only know you cannot stop looking. Level 10. Grandmaster. You are 65 years old. And you are at the summit, Grandmaster. Not a single sword can leave its sheath without your approval. Not a single overseas mission can begin without your signature. Your silence is more powerful than the screams of all others. But this morning, you sit in the stone courtyard. The sun has just risen. Orange light paints the battlements of your fortress. And there, in the far corner of the courtyard, is a small child, newly brought, beside an old man. The child is frightened, clutching the wall, wide eyes. Desperate. 8, perhaps 9 years old, and you look at that child, and something cracks in your chest. This child reminds you of yourself. The port of Acre, rotting wooden crates, the early morning, the smell of salt water, and then that fist, the hand gripping your collar, and that man, white cloak, red cross, and you had stood up, your first and last real decision. Now you look at that child, and for the first time, truly the first time, you ask yourself this question. When I looked at that child back then, I thought I was rescuing him, but where was I taking him? You know the answer. You weren't rescuing him. You were conscripting him. The machine needed one more part, and you were that part. And now, from the top of the machine, you are approving the acquisition of a new part for that machine, the cycle, the endless cycle. But you also know this. This organization existed before you. It will continue to exist after you. You are 50 years of use as a tool bearing the title of Grand Master. Someone came before this title. Someone will come after. And that someone could be that small child, standing in the courtyard, clinging to the wall, wide eyes, desperate. You suddenly remember, years ago, when you were a marshal in the field, the moment you learned that your victory would be erased from history. And you had thought, why? Now you understand. Because great organizations don't need great men. Great organizations need replaceable parts. Great men claim ownership of the organization in their own name. Parts work in the organization's own name. For 50 years, you learned to be a great man in order to be a part. And the weight of this irony, today, as the sun rises in the courtyard, presses down on your shoulder. Within 48 hours, the agents of the King of France have orders ready to arrest every Knight Templar in Paris. You know this. You received word from inside. A secret agent. Someone you'd been cultivating for months. Why didn't they say so sooner? Because perhaps they did say it. Perhaps you didn't listen. Flee? To where? To Rhodes? To Cyprus? To Spain? The Grand Master does not flee. If he flees, the organization ends. If the organization ends, 50 years are wasted. And this, the anxiety of 50 years being wasted, strikes you as funny now. Because 50 years were already wasted. For 50 years you thought you served a purpose, but that purpose used you. For 50 years you thought you were accumulating power, but that power consumed you. For 50 years you thought you were building the organization, but the organization built you as a weapon. And weapons, when their work is done. The child is still standing in the courtyard. The old man says something to him. The child nods. Then the child's eyes drift to you. He looks at you, and in that gaze you see your own eyes at age 8, both afraid and wanting, both wishing to flee and wishing to stay. And you smile at him, because what can you do? Not for a single moment in your life was there someone to come and say, break this cycle, send the child back. And now, as Grand Master, that person is you, but you left behind the capacity to be that person in that stable 50 years ago. You stay, you don't flee. And one morning, when the year reads 1307, doors shatter simultaneously across every corner of France. White cloaks are arrested in the light of yellow candles. And you, when you sink to your knees, when chains pass over your wrists, when the cold stone floor makes itself felt in your palms, you think of only one thing. Is that child still in the courtyard? 7 years later, in 1314 before Notre Dame, bound to a wooden stake, before the flames reach your legs, the last thing you look at is not the crowd. In the crowd, standing in a corner, a small child, 8, 9 years old, wide eyes, desperate, clutching the wall, and a man's hand grabs his collar. White cloak, red cross. The cycle continues.